Well, it was just yesterday I was talking about how when we encounter vigilantes, either on my channel, on Stinging Back, on other channels, and so forth, and in our day-to-day interactions, what we often hear is taunts and name calling, and the favorite one is to say that you're a monster or you're a pedophile, or blah blah blah, anything they want to say because they don't really know what's going on, and they're just outraged at what they think is being an apologist for a sex crime. And of course, they don't know any details and they've already made up their mind. So when they do encounter details, they always try to find some way in between that they can work it out in their own heads. Curiously enough, though, they keep giving cops a pass, they give vigilantes a pass, etc. Well, here we said just yesterday that the vigilantes are the ones that actually have the bad rap sheet. Very often, the police officers actually have the bad rap sheet. And it's astonishing the number of these vigilantes and others who are out there who actually have records that are far worse, far more shameless, and actually they continue to offend even as they go along. Well, now we have a case that dropped just today where a teacher in the District of Columbia um, is finally not putting up with it anymore. Before I put his name out there, I'm just going to share a little bit about, some backstory. I'm not going to share everything about it. I will post it in the interest of fairness and integrity, but I'm not going to go into everything that they do to humiliate this person. Um, the fact that these two clowns, and they are clowns, who have a long history of setting people up on fake sex stings and trying to entrap people who are good and decent folks, politicians, and other folks as well, who haven't really done anything, but only to feed their egos, to feed their channels, to be able to post on Substack. Well, now they're being sold for some $15 million each. They're being sued for, and it's astonishing the number of counts and the creativity of this lawyer. And I want to focus on that. But let me introduce to you first the clowns in question and what they did. And actually, I think the first thing I have up here is what they posted a little bit. And my apologies to the gentleman in question. So the person in question was attacked by Predator DC that has about as many subscribers as I have on my channel. This man's name is Tom Burnham, if I have it right. And Mr. Burnham is a school teacher with, or at least was, with DC. And he has been targeted specifically because he's an elementary school teacher. He was known to the two, or became known to these two, who positioned this sting that you see right here. Now, what's interesting about this sting is these clowns who did it are people who are none other than the usual conspiracy theorist, right-wing fraudsters and liars, Jacob Wall and his buddy, if I can get him up here, his buddy, gotta move it up here. Here he is, Jack Berkman. Okay. So Berkman, another conspiracy theorist, has tried multiple times to frame people, and his buddy, Mr. Wall over here, is actually a convicted felon himself. And isn't it interesting that these folks want to, those of you who are attacking me about trying to reestablish my reputation, folks, my reputation is secure. Whatever I did or didn't do in those 30 years is secure. And since you don't have anybody coming forward in all these years, since 2018 to say that I've done otherwise. And they put out an 800 number that nobody but my ex-wife and her attorney called, then you probably don't have anything. Okay, I know you keep trying to find something, but there isn't anything there. And if the more you learn about how the police conduct these sex stings, the more you find that the sex stings themselves are the disgusting elements. There's nothing in any of my commentary that suggests that I'm interested in anything other than trying to help kids. And I made a full and complete explanation of that on my site. Not true, these other guys. You want to talk about apologists, you can certainly go after them, or go after the many police officers who have been convicted and as part of the Washington Post expose abused by the badge. So here we have Jacob Wall here and his buddy Jack Berkman, who have attacked this poor guy, okay, for doing nothing other than, again, being interested in having sex with someone. And this person that he thought he was having sex with was a 19-year-old. Now, she does say at one point that she's 16, and a number of people jump all over this. But as the attorney points out, 16 is the age of consent in Maryland. Now, I don't know whether there's an age gap distance differential. That is, if there's a gap between the age of 16 and the age of the older person, that may cause a problem for the defendant, or in this case, the plaintiff in this case. But the fact of the matter is, he told her he didn't believe it, and she never corrected him on that. And she had said repeatedly that she was 19. But that's not really the issue here. The issue is that, again, we're going into this realm of role play and where people are, putting on all kinds of airs on it. And he shows no predilection to be interested in anybody underage. He didn't go after somebody underage. He didn't look for somebody underage. It seems a clear element of entrapment. So let's look at the actual case here and see what that looks like, okay? So we have Berkman here. We'll get rid of him. Here is one of the sites for Predator DC. And here you see, I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'm going to show just a little bit of it. I don't even know if it's going to come across on here because I can't seem to reconcile the audio with it. But here goes a little bit of it. So you see him being put into a police cruiser, and now they're winding up to the beginning where they entrap this individual. Now, there's several other sites where they have this posted, including on Substack. They have an article about it, but it's truly disgusting. And again, to be fair to this person, I am not going to actually show this in its entirety or even part of it. What I'm going to focus on again is, this is a gentleman, and they did call the police. He was arrested in the home. And of course, the police arrest on probable cause. All right. And of course, it's interesting. You see all of these comments on their own Instagram, DC Predator attacking them. You are the predators. These people have a long reputation, as we've said all along. When you dig into the background of the vigilantes, very often they are the ones with the checkered past, not the people who are one-timers who are attacked on these sites by police or by vigilantes. And if you take this and you go to the court case, which was just filed today, you can see here a very clever strategy that the police are using that the lawyers are using against the two defendants here, in this case, the two vigilantes. Okay, so Tom Patrick Birner, Birner, is the one that they entrapped versus John Berkman and Jacob Wall. And here's the complaint. They want damages, what will total $15 million per person, if I added correctly here. And they identify them all. They indicate the jurisdiction that this was filed in federal court under 20 U.S.C. 1332, which has to do with defamation. And they're seeking more than $75,000 here. So I was wrong in my initial assessment, just adding things up, math never being my major characteristic. But they go after and they explain a couple of important details. Plaintiff Berman met the girl on Tinder, claimed the name was Emily. She was 19 years old. They exchanged phone numbers and they texted each other occasionally. Eventually, she wants to meet in Maryland, and she tells him that she's actually 16. He said, well, I don't believe you. You look over that. And that was where they ended it. But role play being what it is, people run with it. Role play is not illegal. Being an adult sites like Tinder not illegal. Okay. But again, they're trying the same scam that police do. So this was early June of 2022 that this happened. Okay. Emily pushed for the meeting, just like what the police did with me. They initially pushed for the meeting numerous times. That's never brought up. All they do is say, I pushed for the meeting. They wanted to meet with me in a house multiple times. They looked highly suspect, and it looked as though there were uh, perhaps convicted traffickers there, and I might be walking into a trap with them. Wasn't interested in that. Initially, I thought it was even worse than that to some extent. Well, I don't know about worse, but that it was an actual person who was coming and having sex with the boy when his girlfriend, the nurse and guardian of the boy, Alex VA, were gone. I was gone to work. Same kind of thing. Again, the police and vigilantes are the ones that push for the meeting. Okay. He arrives there, and once he's there, he's directed to take off all his clothes. And then she leaves for a few minutes to excuse herself. And he's descended on by Berkman and Wohl, okay, the two longtime scammers and conspiracy theorists, right wingers, and one of them being Berkman Wohl is a convicted felon. They go with a camera crew. He grabs something to wrap himself with because he is nude, and they immediately start mocking him. Okay. The Emily character, by the way, is really named Storm Moya Bodarek. She works with them, and she was born in 1999. So he was quite correct in assuming she was well over the age of consent, and he acted on that information. No predisposition to commit sex with a minor, as the trolls will ordinarily conclude. Okay. They ask him what he's doing in their house. Okay. There's no indication that that is actually their house, by the way. This point, I think, is brought up here in this complaint filed today in U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. They interrogate him for about an hour. He doesn't say too much, but he says probably enough. They accuse him of trolling for teens online in front of their own employees. And the fact that this attorney mentions that DC Predator, or whatever they're calling themselves here, the fact Predator DC, here it is. The fact that they're doing this in front of their own employees is very curious. It will show up later on, I think, down below. The film crew go through his backpack. They harass and interrogate him, which they have no right to do, violating his privacy. They ask evasive questions about his sexual history, and they accuse him of being a pedophile. They initially talk about how they want to get his side of the story. Otherwise, as a veiled threat, they suggest that they will tell their side of the story. Okay? It's disgusting in its perversion, in its abuse of a fellow human being, in an area that they had absolutely no right to be involved in at all. They found 2 Adderall pills in his backpack. We don't know if he had a prescription to these pills, but they call the police and they claim he had illegal drugs and was under suspicion of being a pedophile or child abuser. The police arrest him. They take his backpack, which has his laptop computer and his phone. They accuse him of having controlled substance. He's charged with that. He pled no contest to a misdemeanor drug charge and was given community service for it. Okay? Probably because he didn't have a prescription or he couldn't lay his hands on it. Who knows? Here it is. The defendants did not own the home where the incident took place. So what were they doing in the home? Okay? They uploaded edited videos. Hey, folks, for those of you out there who say that Ghost CC Unit and these others don't edit, they do. They edit all the time. They edited the photos of the plaintiff, okay? And they posted it on their show, YouTube, Facebook, Substack, and Instagram. They entrapped other men in other ways, according to the complaint here. The scenario that they constructed was entirely false and set up for the purpose of entrapping and humiliating him for their own benefit and for the publicity of their web. I see a defamation charge coming here very soon. Okay. Under Maryland law, it is not a crime for an adult to have consensual sexual relationship with a female who's over the 16 or older. Here's the citations. They posted on all these places. I'm going to post this, but I will not go to those sites anymore that I've already done here on the Instagram site. Okay. The the plaintiff in this case, who was the defendant in the criminal case, Mr. Burnham, deserves a little bit of respect, and I do not wish to exploit him anymore, but I do wish to make sure that this story is told. He suffers from anxiety, fear, shame, and stress. And now the counts: defamation. Okay, and they go through what they said, how they posted they called it every parent's worst nightmare. Okay, they tell them their followers what they do. At no time does the video show plaintiff doing anything with the woman who is going by the code name or the persona name Emily. In front of their employees and on a public video, they accuse him of committing multiple felonies. They themselves are the felons, right? They accuse him of crossing state lines to have sex with an underage teen. That's why they invited him from DC into Maryland. Okay. They gave the impression that they were law enforcement and that they were enticing him to admit to crimes, which is not allowed under the entrapment statute. And worse yet, they could be charged, this is just my thought, with impersonating law enforcement officers, which is interesting because that charge is not in here. Hopefully they bring it up at some point. They accused him of trolling for teens. They said, how would you like this, your chats, private chats, to be read in open court? Okay. I mean, they accuse him of sexual abuse of minor children, false charge. They claim that there was stuff on his computer, child porn, false. Okay. They accused him, they refused in turn to disclose their identity or the identities of the people working with them, their employees, according to this complaint. Okay. They made disclosures on their YouTube videos, which were false. Okay. At no time did the plaintiff communicate with somebody who was a minor. Okay. Plaintiff is not a predator. He's not a danger to society. He wasn't preying on anybody. Okay. The defense did not communicate what the legal standard is in Maryland of 16 and over is legal age of consent. Okay. And so that's count one effectively. Count two is defamation. I won't go through pretty much the same thing, but they had mental and emotional stress and monetary damage when he lost his job. Okay. They go through several more counts, but interestingly, common law conspiracy. I've never seen this one before. In Commonwealth, you can argue common law, I have heard, but I've not seen it done. And here it is. Basically, they're saying that he has if I understand this, he has, like in Virginia, a property interest in his position as a school teacher. In other words, once you're hired, unless you do something egregious, you maintain that property interest. And since he was arrested and the fruit of the poisonous tree, everything that came from this should have been thrown out, but was not, they are arguing that his position was ripped from him, and that's a common law conspiracy because they knew that he worked for the Commonwealth in a capacity as a teacher that had a property interest, and therefore, under the 14th Amendment, they violated that. And they don't go in through all this, but it's very similar to what the argument was in my case, that the school division used to deprive me of my position. But here he is suing these folks for contributing to that. Okay. And he seeks $5 million in compensatory damage for each of those counts. Okay. That's how they get to 75 million. 75,000 each. It adds up quickly. Count 4 is also interesting. Tortious interference with a contract. Here, they argue that they interfered with the property interest in terms of the contract, but I also think there's an element in here where they also interfered by getting other people in their organization to contribute to this conspiracy, if I have that right. Okay. Defendants acted. This would be Wall and Berkman in a malicious and unlawful manner with the intent to interfere and damage his employment, his property interest in there, right? Count 5, intentional infliction of emotional distress. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then it goes to verification. Thomas Patrick Birner verifies his statements are true under Lawrence Sochi, Esquire, the Sochi law firm, Washington, D.C., counsel for the plaintiff. So here you have it, folks. Yet again, it is several opportunities here where you see uh, people who are actual vigilantes who actually have a worse situation. I don't know if they're acting out of guilt or whatever, but they have a worse criminal history than anybody who they go after. And yet somehow, for whatever reason, to clean up their own act or their own reputation or rehabilitate it in some way, just like Chris Hansen and others, they go about this the wrong way and go after this person that they deliberately manipulated so that he would, in fact, go after this person and be interested. And you have to ask, why? What does this do for children? What does this do for the public good? What does this do for public safety? This is about shame and humiliation and a sick desire to capitalize on real child exploitation, to bring the public's attention to this so they can get clickbait, so they can get monetary compensation, so that they can get looked at as some kind of hero when in fact they're anything but. I'll be looking forward to checking this case out and seeing where it goes. I have good feeling about it. Good luck to Mr. Burnham. I hope that he does a very good job and is able to somehow get these two clowns arrested and imprisoned for what they have done, or at least monetarily fined. I doubt imprisonment is there because it's a civil case, but it's in federal court and it's a very serious matter. So we'll certainly be looking at it here on this channel and others. This is ICAC Unpacked. I'm Norman Michael Asian. Have a good day.